I'm excited about this topic personally. I really am.
Okay, why are
Um,
you excited?
I'm excited because I feel like this has been something like we haven't really talked about decision making, but I feel like we have talked about you being just a more Jacqueline version of Jacqueline. You know,
I do.
I don't know, like we've been talking about that so much. Like we talk about up leveling, we talk about, and so I feel like I'm excited to hear just how you move through life now, making a more genuine, making more genuine choices. The modern woman knows how powerful she is and creates her world with passion.
She's intentional about how she leads her life, who she supports, and who she brings around her.
She's not afraid to dream big. She defines success for herself and pursues what's on her heart.
Even when we don't have all the answers.
How do you listen to yourself, like your true self?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, so let me give you a
Oh,
dissertation on how
yeah.
to listen to yourself, because that's where it started for me.
Well, yeah, and we were just talking about how your answers are always related to it's different for everyone. And so I feel like yeah, it is. So how do you distinguish your true voice?
Yeah. Again, it started as a dissertation for me. Like, I don't know if everyone processes this way, but for me, I intellectualize and I over intellectualize so many things. And I just know that about myself now. So I used to make decisions just like trying to weigh all the options. There were some people pleasing elements to it, what's going to make the most people happy, and take a really collaborative approach and go on my way, make a decision. When my decisions were not popular and I would make decisions that I thought were really right and like disappointed people, that like destroyed me. Like,
Yeah.
I hated that. And this is a much younger version of myself. So I'm trying to give some context just to like where I was into now. And so when I when I learned that through my human design, I make decisions through my feelings and feelings over time. So it's not necessarily, does this light me up in the moment for me? It's making decisions, especially deeper decisions. Um, for me, it's correct to make a decision about how I feel about something over time. So over time could be a couple hours, it could be a day, it could be weeks. It really depends on the magnitude of the decision I'm trying to make, right? And when
Yeah.
I first learned this in human design on like a, intellectual level, I was like, oh, okay, easy peasy. Well, it was still kind of hard, honestly, for me. And it took a lot of practice for me for it to become fluid
Sure.
and to really become like a strong muscle. And just like anything with confidence, you have to do it and then it becomes easy. Like confidence comes with competence, but you can't have competence unless you have the confidence to just try and just start.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started experimenting with that a few years ago and I would talk all about it and it'd be my thing. How do I feel? How do I feel? How do I feel? Well, how do you feel about something is actually a much more difficult question to answer if you haven't been practicing that. So again, when I
Mm,
first started, I didn't know. So now fast forward to now, it's been a couple of years. I've been practicing this. It's becoming easier. I now know how I feel about things a lot faster and I'm a lot more certain, but I'll never be fast. And that's the hardest part because I'm not meant to be a fast decision maker. Um, when it comes to things that are again, greater magnitude that are
sure.
important, really important to me, not meant to be fast. So the world values fast decision making. And
Hmm.
I was actually pushed I'm pushed all the time by my husband, who is a very executive type person. He, he's like fast decision making, let's do it. And he is meant to be a fast decision maker. He's very intuitive. So he's like, be faster, be faster. At work, it's like, okay, can you make decisions faster? It's like,
Sure.
kind of, but also kind
Yeah.
of not. It really depends on what it is.
Yeah.
And so that like unpopular way of decision making. And it's not like I go around telling people like, I'm a feelings decision maker. This is how I make feelings. Like I just do it and then communicate it in a way that makes sense. Right. So
Yeah.
that has been really, really difficult. But I would say the biggest reason why I even brought it up to you recently was because this year has really been a year of trusting myself more quickly, or sorry, trusting
Mm.
myself even more because I'm able to understand how I feel about things more quickly. And that gives me just a deeper satisfaction and a deeper confidence in my daily life. Like even when I'm just deciding little silly things.
Mhm.
And it's a huge confidence booster. Like
Yeah.
growing up thinking that I'm terrible at decision making was so sad.
Yeah.
And it made me like not trust myself. And that affected everything, especially confidence. And so now it's almost like a dance, especially since I have a feelings type decision making strategy, that again, if I were to go around and tell the executives that I work with, I'm like, hey, I'm a feelings decision maker. Well, actually, in my company, that probably fly because we're very like intuitive. But
Yeah.
go to like a corporation, right? And like, I'm a feelings decision maker. They'd be like, okay, get off the stage. What are you doing? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But it makes sense for me because that's how I'm designed. So anyway, it has become like a dance. It's become like making decisions for me has become more of like a fluid movement. It's like I understand I understand what's meant for me because it lights me up. And I know pretty much the right amount of time it takes to make certain decisions. And it comes from it comes from my soul. Like it comes from a place of this is what's right for me. And to be able to act on what's right for me instead of like up until now, right? Acting from a place of, well, this is going to be like what's best for everybody. And like, this is what's going to like help the people. And like, this is what's
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Myself to caretake. So there's that. But like making those kinds of decisions in that way just brings a different level of freedom.
Oh, that's amazing. And I love how you said it's trusting yourself. Like,
Yeah.
incredible. When you were talking about how decision making, like you used to think that that was a challenging thing. When you would make a decision and it wouldn't be the most well received, how did you handle that? Or how did you handle that in that moment? Like, how did you process that?
Well, in that moment, um, I think I would definitely default to like appeasing or trying to figure out, okay, well, if that's not the right decision, like what is the right decision? And just like
Yeah.
trying to go somewhere fast, anywhere else than where I was.
Yeah.
And so in the short term, be like, okay, well, let's fix it. Like if I didn't make a right decision, like let's fix it. But I had a deep feeling internally of like shame. Like I'm so
Mm.
bad at this. Like why am I so bad at making decisions? Like, why can't I figure this stuff out? No matter what it was. And um that that's like really damaging.
Yeah.
And that did not support trusting myself. I would just always try to fix it. Like, well, if they don't want this, I'm like, what do they want?
Yeah.
And now I'm not saying that I don't make decisions that aren't like right or good for people. Like I still make decisions that people are question, but it's my decision.
Right.
And when I do that and it's not well received, the I no longer have this like internal like, oh my gosh, I am terrible.
Mhm.
Or if I do, it's really small. I'm not saying that
Mhm.
it's not completely there. I don't know if that'll ever go away.
Yeah.
But the feeling of, well, I made this decision and I knew it was right for me at the time, like that overpowers the, oh, I'm terrible at this. And it came by like practicing it over and over and over again.
Mhm.
Um, but what I will say is not making decision when I make decisions that are not truly my decision, that is a learning moment for me. So if say I make a decision, it's not truly what I believe to be the best decision. I come to the table with it. It's not well received. I go back and I'm like, yep, should have listened to myself. Like that's more evidence toward trust yourself, Jacqueline. You've got
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Trust yourself. And so and what I've learned too is like I think one of the reasons why I was so worried about making the right decision because I didn't want to fail. I had this anxiety that I was gonna like F everything up. And then I was gonna just like there's no recovering from
Yeah.
messing things up. And that's just not true. Like
Right.
everything that I have ever messed up has been a learning. And failing is actually winning. And I'm not trying to say, oh, like
Ugh,
I'm saying all these like terrible, like cheesy quotes, but
they're
when
not terrible. I love them.
thank you. When I am not messing anything up, am I actually living? Let me ask you that question. Like,
Right.
if everything went perfectly, that's boring. I did not live life to the fullest. I didn't try hard enough to mess anything up. So, like, where's the lesson there? And so now
Right.
when something doesn't go well, I'm like, huh, learning, let me integrate that fully. Let me, pull resources together to come up with whatever I need to come up with. And then also proud of myself for living big.
Yes.
I'm living so small, trying to make people happy with decision making. And so trusting myself actually leads to living bigger. And that's just fulfilling beyond belief, you know?
Ah, yes. That is amazing. And you literally encompassed so much goodness in that, like, 2 minutes. Ugh, I
And
yes,
sing.
and scene, like, seriously. Oh, that was just, like, so profound and so powerful. Yes to all of that. Yes to the failure. Yes to, you know, trusting yourself. So so now, okay, so you know now that, like, about yourself, you're someone that needs to process and maybe take time before you make a decision. Like, that is your best version of you making a decision, is being able to process, feel through it, and then make your decision. When it involves other people now, whether it be your husband, your family, your kids, your colleagues, how how does that look like? For like, do you communicate that to them? Have you communicated that to them now that you know that that is your best way of moving through your decision making process, or what does that look like?
Oh, that's such a great question. So, yes, my husband knows Rudy because
Yeah.
again, he's the fastest and I'm the slowest, and that causes that causes some conversations.
Yeah.
So finally, he was like, "You're not making it." Like he'd be like, "Make a decision," and I'd be like, "Okay." Like in order for this to go way better, here's what you need to know. And I basically just told him, and he knows I'm into it, all the human design stuff. So he gets it, and that doesn't mean he likes it. And so any type of decision that he'll ask me for, like sometimes I'll just make decisions just so to get him off my back, but they're usually trite decisions, right? It'll be like small
Sure.
things that I really don't care about. But if it's something that I care about, I'll what I used to do was just kind of sit there and like think about it. And really what I'm doing is I'm feeling like I'm trying to feel in and like drop in and like, how does this actually feel? And I'll just like sit there for a second And he just looks at me like, what are you doing? And so what I've started saying is, oh wait, hold on. I need to think through that for a second before I actually know what my decision is. And he'll just like be like, okay, like what? Or he'll like watch me think, which is kind of funny. Or I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna go do this thing. And while I'm doing the thing, I'm gonna think about it. And I'll get back to you. When do you need the decision by? And I'll literally like ask for a deadline, depending on what it is. Like if it's something bigger, I'm like, do I have like a day? Like, do I have like an hour? Like, what's up?
Yeah.
He's very timely too. So like he'll hold me to that time. And sometimes if I don't know by the time comes, I'll be like, hey, this is what I'm feeling based on the amount of time I've had to think through it. This is what I think would be best if it's the family. What do you think? And sometimes he'll be like, yeah, whatever you want. Or he'll be like, actually, I was thinking this. And cool. Like, what if we did a little bit of this, a little bit of that, you know? So communicating with him has been really intimate, which makes sense. He's my husband. At like places like work where I'm collaborative constantly, the nature of my job is collaborative, but we're also, I part of my role is to be a driver of things. And so I just have learned which decisions need to be more collaborative and which ones don't. And I'm always questioning what that is and always trying to get better, of course. But I just, based on how much time I have to make a decision, I'll bring people in. I'll know what I want to do. I'll say, these are the guidelines. This is what I want your input on. And be really confident about the decision to bring in other people at all. Because in some organizations, that's a huge deal. And sometimes I have to wait longer than I'd like. Sometimes I have to wait. Like I just have to constantly, the one thing that I think is the key is feeling through it for me, like no matter what it is. And that's sometimes hard because feeling is not the dominant way of being in the world, and not a lot of people get it. It's not like I tell people like, I'm feeling through this, but I have to constantly be checking in and like literally feeling what my body is feeling. Even at work, when it's like so intellectual or it's like whatever, it's like, okay, like how does this feel? What is the right course of action in this moment right now? And I've just gotten really good at like figuring out what that is and in sensing and being intuitive about what resources I need to pull in or not. And I will say this year, it feels amazing. It feels incredible. And I still second guess my work occasionally, especially when it's like, you turn something in or whatever, or you like propose something and it's like been longer than normal before you get feedback. And you're like, okay, was this awesome? Did I smash it? Is it terrible? Like, what's going on? Did I make the right decision? And, but usually it's just fine.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, and what I hear you kind of saying too is that like overanalyzing factor after making a decision too. Like, is that the right decision? Is that something that you've experienced or currently experience at all when you are making decisions?
Yeah, 100%. And I also know that like I'm not meant to make decisions with my mind. I'm meant to make decisions with my body, with my feelings. And it's hard to separate the two. And that's, I think, part of what took me so long to learn. And I haven't learned, I'm learning, I'm in the middle of it, I'm in process. So yeah, I definitely weigh options and go back and forth on things in my head. But I can't hit submit on the decision. And I'm putting quotes around that. I can't make the final decision until I feel right about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's hard, especially if other people disagree. And
Sure.
I mean, this is business, right? So like business, life, whatever. Yeah, I have to feel right about it, or else I can't make the decision or I can't do it. And that's
Yeah.
actually super freeing feeling good about all your decisions. Yeah, who knew? Who knew?
Who knew?
So
Seriously.
yeah, it's like seriously, like one of the things that I've been aiming for years is like freedom, right? Like I want freedom in my schedule. I want freedom in my mind. I want freedom, all the kind of freedom. But some of the most freeing feelings that I've been having are like just making decisions faster and living more intuitively with how I operate, like deciding faster, moving in a direction, not questioning it or questioning it, but still moving anyway. And just going until you realize that maybe you just pivot a little bit or you just go a different direction. So I don't know. I think decision making has like leads to confidence, which leads to just ultimate freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is what I hear you saying is like you're now making decisions faster, ironically, not because and like that is aligned for you because you're making decisions faster, not because they're faster just to do it faster, but because you're more confident in your decision making and you're more trusting in yourself.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, another amazing thing that I heard while you were describing like communicating, like the self-awareness that hey, I know I'm a feeler and I process before I make decisions or before I make my best decision. You communicated that so well with Rudy by saying, like, hold on, let me think about this. Like, amazing language to use if you're also a feeler and need to help other people. Like, so compassionate to just like communicate that. Like, hey, it's taking me a while, not because I'm unsure because of X, Y, and Z, but because this is aligned for me. Is there any other like strategies or any other communication like strategies or tools that you use to ensure that you are like when others are involved in decision making, because I think that's been something that has been something that is hard for me sometimes is like making a decision and wanting it like it feels right for me and it feels the best, and being okay with it not always being well liked and being the most popular decision that was made or popular decision. But I think one thing that would be really helpful is being able to just communicate and know everyone's like unique individual way of making decisions and you just have more of a compassion collaborative approach. So is there anything else that you do too that's similar to just communicating and knowing yourself better that you also do
You mean
when it
besides
comes
like
to
secretly looking at people's human design charts and knowing how they make decisions? I'm just kidding.
yeah,
I
besides that.
can normally tell how people make decisions by how quickly they answer things, how they communicate, what types of language they use. I mean, I'm sure there's other books about it that have nothing to do with human design. I haven't
Yeah.
found them, but I'm sure. But human design is like, it was so certain for me. I'm so convinced. And I can quickly apply it. But yeah, I mean, if I'm making a decision and it involves a lot of different people and I need to like bring the group along, that's pretty much what I do all day long at work. And in a family too, if you're like shepherding a family, if
Right.
you're a leader in any kind of situation, there's a lot to take in when you're trying to make a decision. And so sometimes I think, like, I take a poll, and that doesn't always mean like actually sending a survey, although I have done that a handful of times. Taking a poll and being like, okay, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And then taking everybody's answers and being like, sitting with it myself, and then taking the best course of action based on what everybody thought. Um,
Amazing.
I don't know if it's that, mind blowing, but it's so I have all the data. I have all the information that I need.
Yeah.
I just like sit with it and I just go in the best direction and suggest the best thing. Um, which is actually two things. One, it allows me to take time in my decision making.
Mhm.
I'm not trying to stall, but and it gives everybody else a voice too, because I mean, I truly did ask for their opinion. I truly did weigh it and like not everybody agreed, most likely. So it gives them a voice, and of course, people support what they create. So it helps with my influence too. in the group that I'm trying to lead. And so that's one way that I make decisions based on other people. But I think that goes for any really decision making type, because even people who make decisions really fast, they don't make decisions in a vacuum. They,
Right.
have to take other people's voices. So they'll probably, when a question is prompted, they'll probably have their answer really fast. And it may or may not be easy for them to take other people's opinions or have them weigh in, because another piece of my
Mhm.
design is that I'm very naturally collaborative. There are two pieces in the design. The other piece is if you're fairly independent and it's really easy and natural for you to make decisions, to create, to do things on your own. And so I'm collaborative. It's easy. I want people to weigh in for the most part. Um, and so not everybody has that either. um,
Sure.
but I will say I am thankful for the time that it gives me. Or, okay, here's another scenario. So say I'm in a conversation with someone at work, and I'm talking to them and they ask for something like, can you give me your opinion on this? Or can you give me an answer for this? And sometimes I won't have an answer or a decision in the meantime, or
Mhm.
sorry, in the moment. I'll need some time. And so I'll say, this is what I'm thinking right now. Do we have time for me to take a day to think through this and give you a final, well thought out answer tomorrow? And usually the answer is yes.
Mhm.
And so asking for time and space isn't popular all the time, but it actually, especially depending on what situation you're in, can make you even, like, I don't know, appear smarter, more like, like, I'm not trying to appear smart over here. Right now I'm sounding pretty not smart. But what I'm saying is, especially if you're like in a situation where you're in an interview, the employer gives you an offer, you ask for 2 days to think through the offer, feel through the offer, especially if you're a feelings person, that'll make you a more attractive candidate. Now, I don't know, this market's crazy right now when it comes to making offers, but it'll definitely make you attractive, and most employers will respect it. If they don't, then maybe get away. Um, but there's usually time to make decisions, and this world just wants things really fast. And I've had to
Mhm.
learn how to slow down, because I will make bad decisions. if I will make decisions that aren't true for me, and I'll end up regretting them. Um, Another easy example is the calendar request. Would you like to put time on the calendar? I'm
Yes.
talking about general networking, right? Or even, friends ask for time together. And if I'm in, I'm a feeler. So if I'm in a great mood, the answer is yes. If I'm in a low mood, I'm like, I don't know, or maybe no. And
Yeah.
what I have to do, and this is a tough one, what I have to do is tentatively put something on the calendar, or I ask, can I let you know in a couple days? Or can I let you know when the time comes closer? Um,
Mhm.
because the decision will probably be four different things between now and then.
Yeah. That's so
That is not
fair.
popular either. But it's so true. I mean, have you ever instantly said
Yeah.
yes to something and then you're like, oh my gosh, why did I say yes to that?
Yes.
All the
And
time.
then I wish that I gave a more tentative response rather than just being all in right off the bat.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely something to discipline and right. And like calendaring things that you need to get done. And like following through on those things. I am very much also a plan in person. But gosh, saying yes to things because I'm in a good mood is not a good idea. So I have to take some space.
Yes. Well, and what I just love about everything that you're saying is it seems to me like you are in a place where when you're making decisions, it is the truest for you. Like you put yourself first while also being very loving to your surroundings, which is a really hard thing to do. And I feel like you nail it. Like you're so good at doing both, right? And I feel like oftentimes too when we think of decision making, we think of like, well, at least I did it for me and everyone else is upset. But it's like the way that you're describing your decision making is aligned for you, so that way you don't have that like inner critic or that like shame, or if you do, it's a lot smaller than it was. And it's because you're more aligned, but also it's in a very compassionate way. It's not like selfish, or it's not like, I don't know. It's a gentle, like loving way to make decisions that's very collaborative. And I think that's a really amazing trait that you have.
No, it's not perfect by any means. I mean, I still have anxiety when I say no to people that expect a yes from me. So I'm not
Good.
trying to fool anyone here. But sometimes I just can't say yes. It's because I
Yeah.
don't want to,
Yeah.
for whatever reason.
Yeah, exactly. And
Uh,
you wouldn't want to say yes and have it not be how you genuinely feel, and then you're like begrudgingly there. And no,
Truly,
but I mean, you want everyone's like best self when you are with them. So
truly,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, decision making, I don't know. I think two things. Like, I used to overcomplicate it, and I still overcomplicate it. And the second thing is, it's okay. I overcomplicate it. There are like books and books and books on about decision making, right? So like I'm not the only one who's overcomplicated it. And when I step back from a decision and I just think, what do I want to do?
Hmm.
That just simplifies everything and gives me all the answers I need. So then that helps me um yeah, address whoever I need to address and share with them. I don't overly share whys either. I'm just like, oh yeah, can't, other things, whatever. Um, so yeah, what do I want? What do I want to
Yeah.
do? And I sometimes too, I will say this, like a tip for feeling into situations that you're like, I don't even know how I feel about that situation. Just imagining yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
Simple thing is like food. I'm like such a food snob. I love food, but at the same time, eating just anything is just not for me. And my family and I have very different tastes in food, which makes going anywhere really complicated with 5 different opinions on where we're going to go. And so when they're like, do you want to go to this place over here? And I feel through, I'm like, I imagine myself sitting there ordering from that menu and eating it. And I'm like, no, 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 I do
I
not.
love that.
Absolutely no. Thank you. I'm not saying I always get what I want, but at least I've voiced the opinion that I truly agree with.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So anyway, that's a small example, but I think just starting with the small things is how I how I started making decisions for bigger things faster. And that was another huge accomplishment for this year because I got some feedback earlier this year that I was not a fast decision maker, which I'm not supposed to be a fast decision maker, but you know what I mean? I've gotten a lot more confident
Yeah.
in the decisions I do make, which is a huge deal and has led to a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm inspired,
Thanks.
and thank you for sharing your experience with decision making. And I just love your method of thinking, and I love your integration of your human design and learning about other people's human design. And yeah, thank you for your brilliance.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, be careful if we ever talk. I'll be on my phone secretly looking at your human design. I'm just kidding. Thank you for listening to the Modern Woman Show, where we are becoming our truest selves. If you connected with something in this episode and you'd like to share, please send your story to us by emailing us at themodernwomanshow@gmail.com. Thanks.